Not your typical fisherman or fishing spot.
It's really quiet.
Frederick is a street fisher, a hobby that's fast gaining popularity in Paris.
In summer, the fish usually cluster in areas where there's a current, around the docks and the pillars of the bridges. That's where the current picks up, and they like to swim around there during the summer.
The Seine is Frederick's fishing ground. He spends hours observing the river, dipping the rod into the water, and of course trying to catch fish. Most of them, such as perch, are not fit to eat, but that's not the point. It's all about the thrill of the catch.
The goal is really to just spend some time at the water's edge. It is an essential, natural part of Paris, and everyone can discover it just by crossing the Seine and walking along the riverside. It's super nice.
Discovering Paris through the river is Frederico's mission too.
Bonjour.
As captain for the Batterbus company, he welcomes hundreds of tourists every day, ferrying them along his beloved Seine by boat.
Today the Seine is great, the river is sparkling, there is sun, the weather is nice. It's a perfect day.
Frederico has been navigating the banks of the River Seine for the last 5 years, stopping off at the capital's tourist highlights along the way.
We're a kind of alternative to the bus or the subway. It's a different way to travel and discover Paris. There's always that moment when you arrive in the morning and there's nobody on the Seine yet. There's not a wave, it's just a mirror. During those moments you feel a little special. You start work and it feels like Paris and the Seine are ours.
Working on the Seine is one thing, some even call it home. Camille has been living on a houseboat with her family for the last 4 years.
This is the living room, and over there is the kitchen. I know I'm lucky to live here. Everyone tells me so. Whenever I tell someone I live here, they say it's amazing, and it's true. But I don't like to boast about it too much.
But life under the Pont des Arts Bridge is not always easy flowing. Crowds of people can cause inconvenience. There's the noise of boats, and of course the Seine itself, which must be dealt with.
There are times when our relationship with the Seine is a bit complicated because the water rises and falls. The dock was underwater during a very large flood, but you learn to live with it. Everyone who lives on a houseboat does. It becomes normal.
Putting up with her mood swings as if she's a human being. For some, the Seine has practically become part of the family.
Now, if you ever come to Paris, you might have noticed police forces speed by you on bikes, horseback, or even on roller skates. But you might not have noticed those cruising past by boat. Of course, keeping this expanse of water safe requires specific skills. In fact, I'm standing in front of the Seine's own fire station. There's also a dedicated police force, the Fleuve, dozens of men and women specifically trained to fight crime without the comfort of dry land.
Speeding down the Seine at full throttle, the river police are responding to an emergency. Southeast of Paris, a barge is on fire. Thick black smoke clouds the air, half the boat is already up in flames, and it could get worse. The first police team on the scene saved a woman who'd been sleeping inside the boat. The firefighters tackle the blaze from the bank, while the police redirect the river's traffic, making sure vessels don't get too close. Michael says managing the Seine is like trying to control a motorway.
Stay downriver, we're going to block off the upriver traffic. Fires are rare. What we have to do is create a safe zone so there won't be any more victims.
It took 5 hours to put out the fire. 7 million people travel on the Seine every year. It's one of the world's busiest waterways for tourism. So Michael and his team have their work cut out.
The Seine is a bit like Paris's 21st arrondissement, because there's a bit of everything here. There are houseboats, passenger boats, industrial boats, restaurants, boats with bars, pleasure boats, boats used for training purposes, even for offices. So managing all that, well, that's why we're here.
The Paris region's river police first began their patrols in 1900. They look after 600 kilometers of waterways, and their mission is to maintain order, security and save lives.
We're always on the water. So in summer it sounds great. It's warm, we have to wear our sunglasses. But in the winter, the temperature goes down to 2 or 3 degrees. It snows, it rains. This is not the Mediterranean. This is not the sea around Guadeloupe. It's water that is dangerous. It's not necessarily the kind of water you want to be in.
When they're not on patrol, Michael and his team train. They practice a lot so they don't forget the correct procedures.
We do this regularly and we change scenarios. Like here, we're doing a jump, so someone jumps from the bridge. We train so we're prepared for different situations.
Sometimes the police end up underwater themselves. The Seine is on average 8 meters deep in Paris, and they find all sorts down there, even cars that are too decayed to be brought out. It's a 24-hour job, and on summer nights the police work hard. The banks are crowded with Parisians and tourists drinking and partying. The police say 1 in 4 people who've fallen into these waters has drowned.
The part of the riverbank I'm lounging on now is usually open to cars, but for a few weeks every summer, the rat race gives way to a beach makeover as Paris-Plage comes to town. This is where and when to come for an unexpected change of pace. Think ice creams, activities, sports, and of course, sand and palm trees. But this is only the latest interesting use made of the riverbanks, as you're about to find out.
Philippe is a historian who takes curious visitors along the scenic River Seine and back in time. The riverbanks have a long tradition of use as ports and as markets, but in the 19th century, things began to change.
People no longer had access to the quays, which were completely congested. So they would walk further along the river to places that aren't so unlike today's Paris-Plage. But of course, activities were very different.
Paris-Plage hits the Seine during the summer months, with faux beaches installed on the quays. But leisure and pleasure on the Seine is a relatively new concept. We headed to the Carnavalet Museum to see the Seine's history laid out on canvas. Here we're shown what the riverbanks close to the Louvre would have looked like in the 18th century. And this one, a bridge crammed with buildings, as was often the case at the time. Here Parisians would practice jousting, the aim of the game to push your opponent into the water. The banks of the Seine were also a commercial hub, with fruit vendors and washerwomen selling their trade. It conjures an image of another time, but one that's still comparable to 2015.
Thanks to this special effect, we can superimpose works from the 19th century, which we can see on the left, alongside the live, modern-day image on the right. Parisians are reclaiming their history. They're reclaiming paintings from all these museums. And so they can see that a certain monument disappeared at a certain time, or that a certain skyline has changed, and so it's really exciting.
Back on the trail with Philippe, we make our way to the Pont des Arts next to the Louvre. This Parisian's delighted with his stroll through time.
It's such a great opportunity to rediscover Paris, to uncover the secrets of the Seine's embankments, which are certainly worth delving into.
In 1967, then Prime Minister Georges Pompidou inaugurated the expressway along the Seine, a route designed to absorb traffic congestion in the city centre. Today still, the quays continue to evolve. Like here on Paris's left bank, which was transformed into a pedestrian zone in 2013. And now Paris's municipal authorities plan to go a step further on the other side of the river. Between 1 and 3 kilometers of motorway could be pedestrianised in a nod to the Seine's rich history.
feel like taking a spin yourself on the Paris waterways, why not branch out and make for one of its canals, like here, the Canal de l'Ourcq, that widens into Paris's biggest artificial lake, the Bassin de la Villette, a great place to test your boating skills. However, if you're looking for more of a chilled out vibe, then you can make your way downstream to the Canal Saint-Martin, the home of cool, or for a chic year-round yacht spotting experience, enjoy a glass of wine at the classy Arsenal port. Well, whatever takes your fancy, Paris and its 37 bridges will have something for you. So if you get the chance, enjoy and stay tuned to France 24.